McGiverin. I am the chair. This is via Zoom, channel 15 on the access channel through Comcast cable, and also this is being streamed. We record these meetings, for number of different purposes, but for prosperity. And we have members of the committee present, Councilor Bartley, Councilor Tallman, Councilor Sullivan, myself. We'll be joined by Councilor Leahy in a little bit. Other city councilors present are Councilor Murphy, Councilor Vacon, and Councilor Graney. I think I got everybody. We'd like to welcome, I believe in his first meeting, pretty much solo, our new administrative assistant, Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. Welcome, Jeffrey. Jeffrey is the administrator for the meeting. He'll be in our key person, clerk and everything. He'll be in the Wizard of Oz room for the meeting down at City Hall. But if we have any issues, Jeff, we look forward to working with you. If I could, item number 1 was the secondhand license application from Jonathan Maldonado at 385 Main Street. Would Jonathan Maldonado, motion made and seconded to take off the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Would anyone, Jonathan Maldonado or anyone be present this evening? I asked because we had some problems connecting with Mr. Maldonado. So what we'll do, Jeff, is we'll ask the committee to table this, and we'll see if we can find a different way of getting a hold of them.
So moved.
This is my fault. I kind of picked this up at the last second last week. I forgot they were in the jacket, and I do want to try to get rid of them, but we do need Mr. Maldonado. Motion to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Motion to take item number 2 off the table for discussion.
Motion made second to take item number 2 off the table for discussion. Also a secondhand license application from Diego Torres at 241 Main Street. On that motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is a secondhand license. There's a number of things that we look for, but we do have Diego Torres. Mr. Torres is with us. And first, if we could, Diego, we just ask you to give us an explanation of what you're looking for with this license and what you intend to do with it.
Actually, we've had this license, or I have the license. I've had the license for 2 years now. We got renewed this March or April, and we just moved 3 doors down. Instead of 245, we're at 241 now. Or, I'm sorry, we were at 247. Yeah, 247. Now we're at 241. And that's it. We have to, I guess, apply again for it. So,
yeah, you do have to apply again. The reason we hold it in committee again is because of the new address.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to check out the new address for you. But I know you were familiar, but it wasn't because it didn't say renewal. And because it's a new address, we do have to go through the whole process of vetting it. Diego, Mr. Torres, could you tell us what type of secondhand activities do you do?
We buy mostly electronic stuff like cell phones, computers, laptop, tablets. We don't deal with gold or metal, precious metal or diamonds or any stones or anything like that. So it's just basically consumers electronics. And
for safety and more so for security reasons, you keep a list for the police department as you're required?
Yeah, actually, I have the RISP program in the computer. So every time someone comes in, I take a picture, put all the information, wait the 30 days that the city of Holyoke asked for. And then after the 30 days, if the cops haven't come by to pick up the item because it's not stolen, we can then sell it.
Okay. And the property, are you renting it or do you own the property?
We're renting.
Okay. Can you just tell us who the owner is?
David Rodriguez.
Okay. We do, we will check with the tax collector and the city treasurer that all his tax bills are paid up. With your application, your license stands to your business, not directly to the property, but we do have to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Is there any questions or discussion from the committee?
I'll make a motion to approve pending all the municipal charges are paid.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second to recommend to the full city council that we approve this secondhand license from a person who has had, Mr. Torres has had a license for 2 years now, but at the new address. On that motion, All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Diego, the full city council meets next Tuesday. We'll vote on it. You don't have to be present. You're welcome to watch in Zoom or whatever, you feel. But we'll vote on it next Tuesday, assuming it goes good for you. The city clerk will have it the next day. Give her a couple of days and you can contact her for your new license. But thank you for doing business in Holyoke and we appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you very much. You guys have a nice one.
Motion to take number 3 off the table.
Second.
Motion made and second to take item 3 off the table. An order filed by Councilor Vacon that the bonding for 10 priority intersections and funding for the traffic light installations be reviewed by the Finance Committee. On the motion to take off the table, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This has been in committee for some time. Councilor Bacon, I think we met on it. Well, this will be the first time we're meeting on this, but I know we met on those intersections a while back, and we prioritized, if I remember correctly, the bonding for intersections and the need for, because there's a lot more, but these are supposedly what we've all agreed to as the 10 top priorities. As the maker of the order, Councilor Vacon, she's with us remotely via phone. Would you like to address this order?
Sure, thank you very much. I filed the order because I had received communication that the bonding was inadequate, in particular for the new light at the top of Apremont Highway. And so I just wanted to understand what the implications of that was. Did it mean that it wouldn't happen, or was there another way to make it happen anyway? So between the time of filing this order, I was also in communication with Mike McManus, who did communicate with me on the 12th of this month. And he let me know, or reminded me, because I'm sure I was at the meeting where we approved the bonding, that the Apremont light is a separate bond from the other 10. But nonetheless, he stated that they had it designed and went out to bid for Apremont, and the bids came back too high within the existing authorization. But he went on to say that they're going to break the project up and self-perform it, similar to the 10 intersection project. And he went on to say that they should be able to get it done within the bonding limits by approaching it in that way. So he indicated that he was planning to work on it over the next month or so to have materials fabricated and delivered in the winter for spring construction. So I understood that to mean that all of the projects seem like they'll be able to move forward as we thought when we voted for the bonding. So that pretty much satisfied my concerns. I think it had come to me through procurement that the bond wasn't adequate initially to cover, but this seems to be a way to accomplish it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or any other questions?
Hey, Joe?
Councilor Leahy has joined us.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
So it would seem that my order is complied with at this point.
If there's no other discussion, is there, Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, just a question, Mr. Chairman. And I don't know if maybe Linda would know if they're going to break that up. Does that make affect any of the other 10 intersections that we were going to do? As far as Mike McManus said, through the chair.
The way that he wrote it to me was a little general, and he wrote, "We are going to break the project up and self-perform it similar to the 10 intersection project." So that made me think they were treating them the same.
Okay, I just want to, make sure that the 10 intersections ones are still there, and maybe that they wouldn't be, one might be taken out to put the Apremont Highway in there. That was my concern.
Oh, okay. I think the way I understood his communication is he was reminding me that the Apremont was a separate bond than the 10 intersections.
Okay.
That's how I understood it anyway.
Okay, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Tallman.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Any other
Motion that
questions?
the item's been
Councilor
complied with.
Bartley.
Oh.
Yeah, Joe, I just want to make, Joe, can you see the blue hands or no?
I don't,
I
the only
have-
one I saw is yours is up now.
Yeah, no, I had it up. I just took, okay, I just, because I'll do whatever you want.
No,
Joe,
no, it's fine. It was, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion that we solicit a communication from the DPW superintendent to provide an update to city council for the 12/1 meeting relative to the both bonds, so that so when constituents contact us, we can have the most current information.
I'll second David's motion.
Motion made and seconded that we ask the superintendent to update us in writing for our December meeting as
Under
to
discussion?
where we are with the 10 intersections and the bonding. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, Joe, so just through the chair to the administrative assistant, what I'd like you to do, if you would, is to simply ask Mr. McManus through an email. You can copy the finance committee, or certainly copy me, but I think the whole finance committee would like to get a copy, and then just ask him to provide an update on both bond packages, Jeff, relative to the lighting. So one for Apremont, that includes Apremont Highway, and the other one for the for the other 10 that we approved that bond. I mean, I'm not even sure when we approved it. So I guess if you could just give us a touch of the history on that, and just give us a status report as to where we are within the budget, when we can expect parts to come back, and when we can anticipate construction to commence and finish. Okay, Jeff?
I'll send the email tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? The chair will
The motion-
suggest you want to report this out of committee, providing we get the letter for our,
I do.
okay. So chair will suggest a motion that the order is complied with once
Second.
we get the letter from the superintendent of DPW.
Second.
Report that to the full city council at the next meeting, Jeff. Any further discussion? As noted, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Motion to take
item
number 4 off the table.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded to take item 4 off the table. Also filed by Councilor Vacon that no new road detail shifts be scheduled or provided for any company or department that has an outstanding balance due to the police department of the city of Holyoke. On the motion to take off the table, all those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
So moved. We invited the chief of police and or representative from the police department to discuss this. Sergeant Hart, are you representing the chief? Are you here, chief? Sergeant Hart here.
I don't see him, Joe.
He's there. He's on.
His name's
it?
on there.
He was
His
here
name's up.
earlier. Just by phone.
Oh, okay.
He might be waiting for the bond. Jeff, did we hear back from the chief?
Let me take a look real quick.
Thank you. This is the, I mean, we're fortunate, I guess, to have Zoom during the pandemic, but this is one of the drawbacks of of Zoom and doing everything, you know, remotely. It's just,
Right.
Sounds like there's a UFO.
hey, that's Sergeant Hart. Jeff, I know you're checking the emails, but Sergeant Hart is having problems getting in. I know it looks like he's in, but I'm not sure. Well, we cannot hear you, Sergeant Hart, if you are in. If not, we'll have Jeff check it. He's gonna,
You wanna
Jeff, he's gonna call back and do it over. Linda, would you like to give us an idea what you're looking, I think I know what you're looking for here, but just to go on record, what you're looking for?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I filed this order was because I had a chance to look over the audit report. And some of us at this point have been on the council long enough to remember the last time that we tried to clean up this issue relative to these details. And I thought we had gotten our arms around it and that we were in a better place with it. But when I read the report, and I can't quote you the number, I don't have it in front of me, but I know it was over $200,000 that had been unpaid. And I think that was a similar number that we talked about a number of years ago. So that just seems like it's a chronic problem. And it seems like a pretty straightforward way to stop the problem from getting worse would be to make these people catch up on their accounts before any more details are scheduled or provided for them. It would seem to be the most effective way, because what is happening is our taxpayers end up subsidizing this portion of the budget. They're not aware of it until we deal with an audit. But nonetheless, it's a significant amount of money once again. And so that seemed the straightforward way of doing it. When I spoke to our auditor, she said if the committee and the council did approve this, that she would make sure that we complied with it. Thank you.
Okay.
Sergeant Hart's here. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sergeant
Yes.
Hart, we got you now. Thank you. Are you familiar with the item we're talking about?
Yes, I am, and this has been a constant problem, and we've discussed this several times in the city council meeting, and it's like, who's responsible for the vendors, who prevents the vendors from continuing to work in the city? They have outstanding bills, and I think that's one way, is to prevent them from allowing them to bid on future projects in the city, or not allowing them to continue with any other projects that they may have bid on and were granted that job before paying their bills in a timely manner. And I know sometimes when Tanya looks at it, or when some of you counselors look at the balance of it, it doesn't represent the true balance, because there are deposits that are often held within the treasurer's office to transfer back into the off-duty account. So it's not, we've really brought that number down, and I think with the percentage increase that we're getting on the details now, I don't see how at the end of maybe this fiscal year we'll still be in the red. I'm sure we'll be in the black with the amount of money that we're generating.
Thank you, Sergeant. Councilor Vacon, you good for a moment?
Yes, sure.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I remember this conversation also from a couple of years ago. I believe it was when Jim Nieswanger was still the chief. And one of the things we brought up at that meeting was that the police department could do the same thing as the water department, right? Which is the fee has to be paid before the work can commence. And that ends all the problems. And to the best of my knowledge, everybody thought that was a great idea at the time, but that's never been implemented. Linda's right, the number is currently at 204,000, right? And the recent report from that we got, the management letter from Melanson, that's only through 2019, June of 2019. So there's such a lag in getting these reports that it renders them almost useless. You know, we're already 16 months past that date, so we don't know how much worse, or as Sergeant Hart said, it has gotten better, but we don't have by the time we're always looking in the rearview mirror on this. We'd have to get something more current, you know, from the treasurer as to where we stand right now with that account, not looking back at this, you know, report from well over a year ago.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if Tanya's on or not, but I'd like to know what the balance of the off-duty percentage is and where that's being applied or how that's being used. Is it going in to offset this amount, or is it just going directly into the general fund, or what?
Tanya is not with us. That's a good question, Sergeant Hart. We will get an answer to that for you and for us. But, well, I'm gonna hold my questions. Mike, you good for a minute?
Yep.
Council Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. And this is a great order filed by Councilor Vacon. And Sergeant Hart just brings up a very important question, a very great question, is if the vendors are not paying, where's that money getting deposited to, which line item? Because that number that we were working with, as Michael said, is, it's a snapshot in time, and it's not an accurate one. However, they're bidding in for details, and the city's paying them like that. It happened, and it does happen, but then they're not paying the city. So these contractors are getting paid their prices, but then they're lagging their feet and paying the city. It just has to stop. I think this is a good order. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Counselor.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with my colleagues. I think this has been going on for a number of years, and I think sooner or later we got to try to find a way to stop this happening. And my idea was sort of like with these little markets and stuff. If they get behind in their bills, they got new stuff coming in. They got to pay right away for the work, for the merchandise coming in. Say a little market on the corner gets $200 worth of milk, where they give them the debit or a check right there on the spot. Some of these companies or even maybe some might be the gas electric, it could be the water department, it could be some of our bigger restaurants get behind, and I know stuff, the money's coming in maybe in 30, 60 days, but after a number of years, the money isn't coming in. And my thing is, it's almost like you should have the money up front before the work is there. If it takes 2 days, and then you got to pay the person $200 for the road work, well, they come up with the $200. And if it's not a check and they're billed right away, maybe some kind of like a debit where the money is taken right out of their account and on the spot. So that's my thought. I know a couple of years, maybe a year or two ago, we had issues with the auxiliary police. They weren't getting their money, and some people were owed $3,000, $4,000. And because they weren't getting paid from the different businesses or departments, wasn't paying into the city, so they weren't getting paid. So it affects a lot of people. It affects people that are doing the job and not seeing the money coming in for sometimes 2-3 months. So I think it's a great order. I think there's some way that we could try to find a way where this could get paid maybe up front or when the detail starts, so they know that this amount doesn't get up to 50, 60, even over $100,000, and the city ends up paying it out of their pocket and waiting for the money to come in, and it is the taxpayers that's paying for this. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also think this is a good order, and just a couple of questions, and maybe Sergeant Hart can answer this. So when someone works a detail, when would they get paid for that detail typically, Sergeant?
The following pay period.
Okay, so like within 2 weeks?
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know if we have a net 30 or something along that lines, but it certainly seems to me at most it should be net 15, so that we're not using city money to pay for these details. And if that can't be done, then I think Councilor Tallman talking about being able to take money out of people's accounts as we have to pay it certainly makes some sense.
Yeah, it gets a little tricky because let's just say, for example, the DPW hires out and has a vendor do a job, and the job is going to take a month. Well, the vendor's not gonna be getting paid until after the job's complete. But in the meantime, for the next month, every 2 weeks, officers are getting paid. So it's gonna be hard to have the vendor come up with that money without getting paid for the job, you know what I mean?
I do, except for I would have a hard time believing that a vendor takes on an account that cannot meet their expenses until they get paid in full. So I mean, to me, if that were the case, I'd be a little hesitant about the contractor in terms of their viability. But I understand what you're saying. But I would think that, you know, we ought to be in a position where we know this is an expense that they have. They have to pay their own payroll prior to getting the full payment. So they ought to be paying for the people that the city provides to help them do their job. So I just agree. I think we have to get in a situation where the people that should be paying for the service are the ones that are actually having that money deducted from their account and not from ours. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor
Linda.
Bacon?
Thank you. I'm very warm to the recommendations of, I think, Councilor Sullivan and Councilor Tallman relative to upfront payment for people who have a history of not paying. But I do think they should cure their outstanding balance and then be put into that category. And I feel pretty confident that it's known who the people are or the companies that tend to be problematic. I don't know who they are, but I don't think it would be a difficult thing to figure out. And I think once people know that the city is serious about it, I think they'll pay.
Councilor Sullivan, you have your hand up again?
Yes, I do. I'm going to read right from the report for anybody that hasn't seen it or had a chance to read it. These receivables are not maintained in the city's general ledger or collector's record. As a result, there is no independent verification performed to determine whether all the service has been even billed or collected. All right. That's still listed as a significant deficiency in their latest, what we consider the latest outside audit. Now, there's one other way, aside from collecting in advance, and it's very, very simple, is at the end of the job, before they're paid, that amount's deducted from the check. Instead of sending them the money and hoping we get paid, just simply deduct the amount from the account payable that's going out. And that takes care of the problem.
Councilor Barley?
Yeah. Thank you. Just through the chair to Sergeant Hart. Sergeant, Sergeant, are you familiar with the audit report?
The audit report?
Yeah, the one that's been quoted a couple of times by various counselors. Councilor Leahy, I'm sorry, Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Vacon quoted it.
I just heard it, but I don't have a copy of it and I haven't read it. But.
Okay, so it's not fair to the sergeant. So Sergeant, just through the chair to the administrative assistant, Jeff, do you have a copy of the audit report? The man, Jeff?
Yeah, let me just check real quick.
Why aren't you joining us on camera? I thought we went over this at the last meeting. Administrative assistant, you're like the Black Hand. I mean,
It's the Wizard of Oz room. They're very active back there.
well, look, don't worry. I mean, Jeff, I guess my only point, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't want you to do a research project now. So what I'll do is, because I have it right in front of me, I can easily get it to you. I'm gonna send it to you, but I'm also going to send it directly to Sergeant Hart. Mr. Chairman, is that okay?
It's a public document. That's fine, Councilor Barley.
All right. So I want to say that. Then I just want to, because within that document, Sergeant, I'm just through the chair to Sergeant Hart. Within that document, it says that, and this is a response from the city of Holyoke saying that the auditor's office will be working with the police department to set up a system to track account receivables within the general ledger. The police recently purchased a new billing software that should assist in this effort. They will be working together to decrease the amount of uncollectible accounts and to reduce the fund deficit with, well, it's a typo in here, with appropriates to the, in other words, you're going to square it up. So, but it's not fair for you haven't seen this report, which I'm almost shocked at that, because if the city's making a response, I would think that they would have run it by a police department, but that's just my interpretation. So I'll have that out after we close out this meeting. I'll send it to Sergeant. For the record, Mr. Chairman, I'll send it to Sergeant Hart. I'll send it to the Chief of Police, and I'll send it to the Administrative Assistant, and I'll copy the chair on this as well.
Councilor Bartley, we have it, and I'm sure Jeff has a copy in the hard copy in the office too.
Yeah, I know.
I'll talk about the audit in a second, but just to the chief and Sergeant Hart. Everybody else was sent the electronic copy last week.
Yeah, and Joe, Mr. Chairman, sorry, the last comment I was going to make, because I think all the ideas that were put out, either collect the money up front or deduct it from, I think those are great ideas. The only other thing we haven't done, and this is kind of taking a page out of Councilor Bresnahan's book, but also something that we've done for years in this city, even before I became a city councilor. We publicize the names of the individuals that haven't paid property taxes and that haven't paid sewer funds. We the city, the treasurer has published those lists. So I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying we ought to consider publicizing names of businesses, because that might serve as an impetus. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Leahy, do you want to speak for a second time? I guess not. Just a few comments myself.
Sorry, Joe, I was on mute.
Okay, that's okay. Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Okay, you got the floor.
Yeah, so I think what Councilor Bartley was talking about, he's onto something there, where we should have a separate order to be filed, but have a meeting to kind of calibrate that the report that we received last week, to see where all the departments are with the recommendations, if they've done them, or if they're not, or if they haven't been completed. But I'll talk to David offline about this.
Thank you. And thank everyone. And everyone has offered some very good suggestions, and I think we're on track. I'm going to take it a step further, but try to hold back some of my remarks, because, I mean, I want to just say this is unacceptable. And I'll say why it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable because, the first time it's shame on you. The second time it's shame on us. This is the fifth time we've gone through this where we've had issues with deficiencies. Sergeant Hart, I hope you're right that this is just an accounting, tracking error. Not error, but a tracking, issue where we just have to look to see where the money is and make sure that it's in the right place. John, and I know you're just the spokesperson tonight, so my message, and I'll talk to the chief, but it's very simple. The police officers of the Holyoke Police Department, get paid good money on overtime to work these details. The city allows those details to be worked out through the police department because they're necessary, many times necessary details to control traffic and to control other things that could be a safety problem. And I think that's part of the city's responsibility. But at the same time, the contract with the developer is not the developer, with the provider, is that that they purchase the manpower to provide that safety, and most vendors do so and pay their bills in a timely fashion. But when we find some vendors who are not paying in a timely fashion, we get deficits. Because the city is good to its employees, and we have allowed them to be paid up front in the paycheck in the regular payroll system. Those deficits don't go unchecked; they become a problem. So my solution is very simple. City stops paying the employees and let the contractors pay the employees directly. And I know that's not going to work, so don't all look at me in shock, but is sometimes you just got to take a tough stand. Now, I've heard this a lot over the last 6 months. We had a very difficult budget, budget hearing last June. We have a very difficult situation with the pandemic and with the state budget. Barely, I don't even know if it's finalized yet. And we have a lot of issues in terms of balancing the budget. And we've made some tough decisions. The mayor made some tough decisions, and some budget monies were moved around both by the mayor and by the city council. And I'm speaking directly to the overtime in the police department because I've heard feedback that people are being told the city council cut the overtime budget and the police department doesn't have enough money to do their job. I hope a good part of their job is done on regular hours and not just on overtime. But the big picture is, if someone is not working with us to work on these contractors and these deficits and working with the auditor and working with the treasurer, that's the big picture of why we don't have enough money to put into those overtime accounts to keep people working on those special not the private details, but on special details like watching out for motorcycles, breaking the law, watching out for crimes in certain areas around the library park. So this is where department heads have to come together with the entire city and fix this. Now, here's another problem. That's fiscal 2019. You know what happens to that $200,000 now that it's in the audit? That $200,000 comes out of free cash. This is what happened last year.
Yes.
Now we have less money to give to people like the police department, the fire department for overtime, and where they're showing deficits within their budget. And that, again, should be incentive that departments should be working with the auditor, should be working with everybody else to make this work. Now, as far as the audit goes, we received the audit. It would have been a meeting on tonight's agenda, but the outside auditors are still working with a number of different municipalities. They were not available tonight. So we will have the outside auditors with our auditor and with the, all the department heads, that are necessary in so we can review the audit. But I agree. I mean, it's one thing, you're never up, 1 year, behind, but being 2 years behind on an audit is not very helpful. And especially if that $200,000 hasn't been corrected yet. Because, and if the auditors are saying it hasn't been, then I'm afraid, Sergeant Hart, it hasn't been. Now, maybe the system is now corrected and we're not creating a new deficit, but we still have to take care because old deficits don't go away unless you address them. So I'm trying to hold my remarks back, Councilor Bartley. Am I doing a good job?
Great job.
But the message is, it's time to send the message. If we're not going to do this the right way, we're not going to do it. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah. Just a not really a remark. Just a small point. I did take the opportunity to send that email, Mr. Chairman. So I sent it to the administrative assistant, to Sergeant Hart, and to the chief of police. And I pointed out in the management letter, it's audit result number 11. And so now they'll all be on. We should all be on the same page as far as the audit goes. And then I appreciate the fact that we're going to have the Melanson Heath in here next month. I hope we don't have too many things on the agenda, Joe, because that's going to be a.
No, I was hoping for tonight, but I understood that it was just, we just got the audit a little last week. So it was just a win that we might've got them on tonight because we did have a short agenda, but we will do the best we can, and I think we'll be okay because I understand that there was a meeting with the finance people today, the mayor, and that they're looking at either a supplemental budget or looking at something because we do have the end of the second quarter is here and we need to make some decisions. I did talk to the assessor and I'm stepping out of bounds a little bit here, but they are setting up the classification hearing for November 30th and they're waiting for the for Tanya and our people to get the numbers, mayor, to get the numbers together to balance the budget and to take it forward. But I don't know where the final state number is. So there's still some question marks, but we're moving and trying to get everybody in the right position to finalize the budget so we can go into the third quarter knowing where we're going.
Well, well, unless the maker wants to do otherwise, I think we should table this and maybe we can take it up when you take up the audit. Maybe we could add this into the conversation.
I think that's a good idea, Councilor Bacon.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And thank you to the committee for all your great input. And I would just like to see this resolved so we don't have to discuss it again. Thank you.
I agree.
Motion
Is
to
there any
table.
further discussion? A motion is made and seconded to
Second.
table. We do not discuss that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, Joe, do you want to take 5 and 6 together?
Please.
Motion to suspend and to take 5 and 6 as a package.
Motion
Second.
made and seconded to suspend the rules to take 5 and 6 as a package. Both are introduced under my name. Item 5 is the fiscal 2021 state 911 department training grant. And item 6 is the fiscal 2021 state 911 department support and incentive grant. On a motion to take off the table for discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Sergeant Hart is with us. John, if you could run us through this, the amount of the grants, are there any matching funds? And then just let us know, and I know these are ongoing grants, but just let us know how each grant is going to be used.
Yep. Okay, so I'll first start with the training grant. That one, both of these grants, there are no matching funds, and both of these grants are available for Councilor Leahy to vote on. He doesn't have to recuse himself for these. So the
Okay, thank
training
you.
grant, the training grant is for $10,561.72. And that's broken up into 2 categories. One is to pay for conference fees, which is $3,887. And the second is for personnel costs, which is $6,674.72. And what that does, it covers the cost for the conference fees for all of our dispatchers to keep up with their training and the mandatory 16 hours that they're required to do each year to keep their 911 status.
Any questions on the first training grant? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, Sergeant Hart, what is the number of dispatchers under this grant that are being getting the training for?
Under this grant is for both grants are actually 13. We have 13 current dispatchers, 12 full-time and 1 part-time. So it covers all 13.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, Sergeant Hart, the personnel line item on that, the 3,000 some odd dollars, part of that grant, that's to pay the dispatchers while they're taking the classes?
Yes, that's for their overtime cost.
So they're getting paid overtime to take a class that's mandatory for them to keep their job.
It depends when they're taking the class. Some get paid overtime, some don't. It depends on their day on or off, whenever the class is offered. I don't believe they can pick and choose when to take their course. If a course is available on a certain day and they happen to be off, then it's overtime for them contractually.
So some people could be just doing it during their normal working hours and others are getting paid overtime to come in and take a class that they're required to take?
So if a dispatcher is, let's say a dispatcher is working tomorrow and he's scheduled for class. So now that dispatcher goes to class, but that dispatcher has to be backfilled by someone who's on overtime. So that's how that's covered. So the dispatcher is getting paid their regular time for taking the class, but because they're missing and away from dispatch, the person replacing them is getting paid overtime.
No more questions.
Councilor Barley?
Oh, yeah, through chair to Sergeant. Sergeant, well, I'm sorry, I think you said this, but what's the source of the grant?
It's from the state E911, emergency 911.
I mean, is that, but I'm just at, I'm sorry, is there it's executive office of what? I just went with department, that's all. If you don't know, you don't know.
I can't say for 100%.
That's okay. And Sergeant, just have to, and again, you might not know this either. Just on our dispatchers, are they are most of them from Holyoke, or they kind of spread out a little bit?
I'm not sure. I think most of them are from Holyoke.
Thank you.
Councilor Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sergeant, a couple of questions. So on the dispatcher, so this, what are they? I know I've done a lot of reading in terms of trying to make sure we have the right response. So is this training provided to dispatchers to kind of discern what kind of response, whether it be police or ambulance or behavioral health people, is that part of this training?
It depends on what courses are offered. Every year there's a different course to cover a different topic.
Okay, so they have to take 16 hours. Do they get to select what they want, or are there only specific things offered and they have to take that?
Yeah, there's certain specific courses that are offered by certain specific companies or vendors that offer the training that only 911 supports. So
the chief or the dispatchers don't get to choose. I really want to get more information on this, and that's coming up next month. I have to take this one because that's what's coming. I mean, I'm not against the training. I'm all for getting people trained. I just want to make sure they're getting what they should get and what they need.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on item number 5? Sergeant, if you just run us through item number 6.
Okay, item number 6 is the support and incentive grant. And that amount is $246,443, and that's split up. One is for equipment is going to be $1,421, and the remaining is going to be for personnel costs for $245,022. We did put in for some other equipment. However, we did not get quotes back in time. We put in several different bids for some equipment and some security things for dispatch, up to and in around $60,000 to $80,000 worth. However, we didn't have the time to wait around to get those quotes, so we're going to have to postpone that till next year's. If we get the grant to do all that updating in the dispatch area. But the $1,421 for equipment is going to be for 4 new computers and a printer and software for all 4 dispatch stations.
And John, what's the personnel? How's that break down?
It breaks down to, this is kind of like a supplemental grant where it can cover the cost of overtime and salaries for dispatchers.
Now, can you explain to us if we look at the budget that was presented, the salaries of the dispatchers are in the budget. So if that line item has X amount of dollars, and you get a grant to pay for the salary, does that create a surplus in the line item?
Yes. Keep in mind, we never really know how much we're going to be getting or if we're going to be getting any.
No, understood. Great grants are good. I just reminding everybody how this works. You know, it's and to supplement it, it just creates money available to do other things, you know, like pay deficits for all those vendors. Sorry, gotta get off that.
Good point, Joe.
and that was a bad one, Pete. I'm really out. I'm out of bounds.
Yeah.
Sergeant
Yeah,
Hart.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is. I mean, you know this dispatchers have overtime just like all our civilians and our police officers. So you know, we've been through this overtime line item budget a million times, and we pay $1 million, we get 250, and we haven't come back to city council in 4 years asking for more overtime money. So that's how the grants help out.
And we appreciate that. We appreciate the work you do with grants. And I'll tell you from a personal note, I appreciate the dispatchers. We had a break-in at the merry-go-round last weekend, and I respond to it with the key, and the dispatchers were great getting a hold of me about 4 o'clock in the morning. And they were wonderful to, with, you know, just getting everybody over there and taking care of a situation. Unfortunately, it was us, and I think Councilor Leahy knows the Children's Museum got hit again. And, you know, this is some ongoing problems in the area down there.
Yeah, they all our dispatchers do a great job. You know, there are eyes and ears before we get to the scene, so they do a tremendous job in helping us out.
It's a tough job.
Councilor Barley. Dave, you're muted.
Yeah, sounds like we should, well, first off, it's pretty brazen to break into the merry-go-round across the street from the police department. It's pretty, wow, that takes some nerve, but what do I know? So, the sergeant, the source of the funds, it looks like is it the same, through a chair to Sergeant Hart, it's the same state 911 source?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I looked it up. I didn't see any relation to EOPS or you know, grants and research or anything like that. So it might be its own entity.
Yeah. Okay. And then the duration of this current grant. When does it start and end?
It starts from the date of when we get the contract back to us after being signed, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was sometime in October, so I can kind of go back to that date in October and start reclassifying some funds, and this is where we get into the problem where we didn't have time. If I would have waited longer for those quotes for the equipment, we'd run into the problem of not being able to charge off the whole amount of the grant, and we'd end up losing money or giving it back to the state.
Yeah, what is it, a 1-year grant or longer?
Yes, yeah, it goes from now until June 30th, or from the date of the signed contract, which I think it was October, but.
Okay, so, okay, all right, that's good enough. Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sergeant Hart, through the chair, is this approximately the amount that we've been getting every year?
No, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. For the past probably 3 or 4 years, we are getting $175,400. And I remember reporting to you how we had an upgrade to our E911 system and next gen. And what that did was, in the past, we used to dial 911 and we'd get transferred to Canada. State police, and state police would have to transfer. Well, now that they put this next gen software in, now all 911 calls come directly to Holyoke. Well, not only all of Holyoke calls come in, but also some surrounding communities and some other communities that their phone call signal will hit our tower at Mount Tom and then dispatch it to us. So I think the increase is the result of that new next gen system where we're generating, because these figures are the funds are derived from call volume, for 911 call volume. So the increase in money just shows the increase in call volume that we're getting through the 911 center.
Okay, thank you. And also just thanks to my colleagues, Councilor, I believe Bartley and Councilor Leahy. You'll be filing a report when this grant is done with the council. Sergeant Hart,
That's for you.
What's that again?
will you be filing? You would be filing the regular report that our colleagues, Councilor Leahy and Councilor Bartley, had filed. We get that report on all the grants.
Yeah, this one, I don't really know how much to report, but I think we can, what will be helpful is if I get I have to put a request in through 911 to get a copy of our call volume. And
Right.
you can take a look at that, and that'll show the, what the money is based on, that call volume.
Okay, yeah, it'll just be good to know, to find out, approximately I know you stated there was some overtime money, if using, $100,000 of overtime money for dispatchers, that, we'll know, the council will know, the finance committee will know that, that money is available for possibly other things in the department.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant.
You're welcome.
Councilor Sullivan.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify a little bit or add on to what Councilor Tallman just said. All of these grants, right in the wording form, it says it includes a method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with said grant. Now, and that's what we're really looking for. We just received a final narrative report on the STEP traffic grant for fiscal year 2020, but nowhere at all in that narrative report was any accounting at all done for the administration of said grant. All it has is accomplishments, challenges, progress of goals, right? And that's it. There's no accounting for how any of the money was spent, just statistics, how many accidents decreased, how many speeding citations were issued. And, I won't get into too much, but, followed up by a complaint about the lack of a traffic division. But nowhere in the report is what we're looking for in the finance committee, right, of how the monies were spent. So we really got to pay attention to that.
I think if you look into the, any grant has its own separate fund number within Munis, and you can look up anywhere in that fund number and it'll show you exactly where the money is spent from. So in that traffic grant, if you look up the fund number in that traffic grant and look under personnel services, it'll show you how much was spent in each pay period and who got set amount of money in that pay period. It's in there. So that's accounted for.
Well, good. Let's include it in the final narrative report. We shouldn't have to go digging around looking for it. That's all I'm saying.
All set, Mike?
All set.
Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Councilor Sullivan brings up a good point. Sergeant, I can speak for myself, but I'm sure Councilor Bartley is on the same page. The reason we filed this report is to have the who, the what, the when, the where, everything encompassed in the report. We also don't have access to Munis. I wouldn't even know who to speak to try to even get onto Munis. So in the future, if we could have all the bullet points and all the expenditures and all the salaries and kind of where all the money went and how it was spent, it'd be more helpful for us.
I understand that, and that takes time, and time is money. But I can do the best.
I believe it's an ordinance.
Yeah, I can do the best. The auditor has that information as well. Because I would just be merely printing up the munis reports from the grant and the personnel services, and you'd get all the information you need, who worked it, how many hours, and the total amount each pay period. And if you want that for the end of the grant, that'd be a lot of paperwork and numbers and names you're going through. So that's.
Well, if I could suggest, Sergeant Hart and to the counselors, that when it's not just Sergeant Hart, it's not just the police department, but when a department head or the person they designate is sending us a report of the final, the end of a grant, closing it out, that they coordinate with the auditor who is responsible to work with the designated person in the department on all these numbers, to include a financial report with it might make more sense. Our auditor is ultimately responsible, and the outside auditor is the one that points out when deficiencies are in any of these grants or any of the issues that, payroll or whatever within the budget itself. And our go-to person for munis, although we do not have access, is our tax collector. She's probably, ever since we lost Brian Smith, the most inept, most capable person of, explaining munis to everybody, and all the department heads use Gage Akowski for that purpose. But I think we can find a compromise without making it too time consuming, Sergeant Hart, where we can see that information readily at the end of a grant, and at the same time know both the finances and the good news of how the grant was used. Any other discussion? I noticed, Councilor Tallman, that Nettie's got the Christmas tree up.
With it.
Good job.
That's one of them. We got in the house.
See, there's a McGiverin rule. There's no Christmas trees after Thanksgiving.
We started a little bit earlier.
Is there any other discussion on business? Chair will entertain a motion on both these items.
Motion to accept the provisions of both grants, the 911 department training grant and the 911 department support.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded for items 4 and 5 that we accept and recommend to the full city council that they accept and all the provisions of each grant and adopt and approve the appropriations of the grants. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. John,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Sergeant. Item 7.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, Sergeant.
You too, everyone
Motion.
else.
Sergeant Hart.
Motion to take up item 7. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, this is a little bit of housekeeping, but I think, and I'll explain, I think we should adopt it. For some reason, I thought we did adopt it on the floor, but I was told we did not. This was filed under Councilor McGee's order name, an order that Ryan Allen, the City Council Administrative Assistant, is designated a special municipal employee to temporary work for the DPW. As we know, we are just at the end of the transition of Ryan with his new position in the DPW, Jeff Anderson Burgos with his new position as our administrative assistant, and Ryan was overlapping, both jobs that up until I think this week, in terms of working on the different responsibilities for the position and helping train Jeff to the new position. So I don't know if it's necessary now, but Councilor McGee is not present, but I'm pretty sure he filed this for a reason, to make it legit. And if we haven't voted on it, we need to vote on it just for auditing purposes, but for accountability purposes. Is there any discussion? Councilor Barley.
Yeah, okay. Right, so the chair is right. We did take this up as city council, but it got pushed back to finance. And I believe that was at the request of the law department. I now see the law department is on here. So I'm momentarily going to make a motion that we suspend and allow the law department to address us on this. But
Second.
I thank you. So under discussion. So what I'm my recollection was, and I'm going to let her speak in a minute, but is that there were some question marks relative to union contracts, and Ryan's now, I believe, in a union, and so I guess we've got to. I mean, believe me, I'm all for this, but we've got to. Whatever we have to do, we have to sort of navigate it a little bit carefully, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Motion has been made and seconded to allow our city solicitor, Crystal Barnes, to address the item with us. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Crystal, welcome. Did you hear the question and the item we're discussing?
I did. So this was brought up in regular council, and I spoke a little bit about it then. We can't designate Ryan Allen or his position as a special municipal employee status. So special municipal employee does not go to a specific individual, it goes to a position. So if you were to designate the administrative assistant special municipal, that would also mean your new administrative assistant would be a special municipal employee, but that can't happen either. The designation of that position comes with requirements. It either can't be a paid position, the person holding it can't be paid by the city or town for more than 800 working hours during the preceding 365 days. Or you hold a part-time position, which allows you to work at another job during normal working hours. So normally you see like a coach, some part-time little positions around the city designated as special municipal. There are some statutorily designated. The retirement board position, I do believe, is a special municipal employee position. But the administrative assistant for the city council cannot be a special municipal employee position. So the other issue you come across is that Ryan is currently employed as a full-time employee under a union working in his new position. So then to grant him the ability to work essentially what is a full-time position in the city as well, it just doesn't coincide. You can't do that.
Crystal, I hear you loud and clear, and it makes sense. Some of, and I don't know what the proportion was, but some of what Ryan did was not during the hours of his new position, but above and beyond, more like a part-time, consultant to continue to work as the administrative assistant at night, and then to train Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. So you're saying we can just pay Ryan through overtime hours? We don't have to designate him?
You can't, because he would be working a position that is actually a full-time position. So just because he's taking pieces of that position, you're trying to now create a new position. Basically,
well, it's already done.
Well, right, and that's the problem. I mean, basically, the only thing that could have been done is, kind of out of his good graces, could have assisted the new position and given him some pointers and tips. But for the most part, he shouldn't have been paid in both positions, which I don't believe he was. I think he was just sort of assisting after hours, trying to get Jeffrey up and running. But that's something that would need to be looked into. He couldn't have been paid at both positions at the same time.
We know Mr. Allen's a very generous and kind-hearted city employee, but he's also, even over the years, he took money out of his pocket to pay for some materials when it was difficult in the budget to get those materials. And we had to go through hoops to get him paid back on that. We probably still owe him money. And I think if this is not the way to do it, I'm asking that we find out a way how to pay him.
I don't know that there is a way to pay him. It's essentially you hired somebody new, somebody left the position, that transition. No,
I know, but this is common practice in the private sector, and certainly most people want us to in the public sector to emulate the private sector when it comes to good business. And this is a good business practice that the outgoing person, in good standing, trains the incoming person. And when there's a gap, which there is, not during, not so much the gap during the day hours when he was working his new position, but the gap during the evening hours when the city council was meeting, that we should be able to pay him, whether we have to call it something different, a consultant or whatever. There's got to be a way to pay him. The idea is that he's getting 2 checks from the city. And that's why we designated special employee, not the positions.
Right, but you can't designate a person. It has to be a position designated as special municipal employee.
All right, so can we call it the consultant to the city council?
You'd have to create a position and make a contract and have to look at conflict of interest.
Okay. How is your outside lawyer line item?
It's designated under Chapter 30B that we can hire outside counsel.
No, I understand that. You're going to need some more for this one. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. At the state level, if somebody retires and the department still needs help, they can bring those people back at per diem. I know that you're not the attorney for the state, but do you have any idea how they're getting away, or not getting away, but doing that, Crystal?
Are they still working for the state? So the issue is that he's still working for the city. So he's working 2 city jobs.
Okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, if they'd be retired. Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilor Barley.
Right. So I think what we're going to have to do, well, what we ought to maybe consider doing is tabling this, but getting a communication from the mayor's office on how he wants to proceed. I mean, the law department's saying what the law department said. So we all heard that, but there's a law and then there's reality. So I mean, to think this wasn't going to be addressed is, I mean, I don't know how this stuff slips through, but it does. It's a unique situation, clearly, Mr. Chairman, because we were, Ryan got the job, gave us a requisite notice, and then at the request of probably the president and the chairs and all of us, really, and just for reality, we needed him to stay on and to transition the current administrative assistant into the position, and now he's off and running. And so Ryan clearly did the job beyond his regular job that he worked at the Department of Public Works. So I hope that we'll get 2 things out of this. One is that I'll hope we'll get some kind of a timesheet from Ryan documenting the hours he worked, so that we're all on the same page. Everybody knows what we're talking about. So the days and hours. I know we're not big on timesheets, but this is a case where, we should probably have some kind of a timesheet. And then I think we need to get that timesheet into the hands of the mayor, and then we need to get a communication from the mayor, because we want to do it all above board. We want to do it all in public, like we always do here in city council. It's always public and always on camera, and so I personally appreciate all of Ryan's work. I mean, how many times has he come into my office and brought the jacket and helped me put together the DGR agenda, blah blah blah. So and he's coming on his lunch hour, Mr. Chairman, while he's at DPW. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to want that reimbursed, but he probably should. I mean, he definitely should be reimbursed for the attending the meetings and helping out Jeff. Certainly off hours, which would be generally after 4 o'clock, between the time he resigned. I'm losing track of time now, but that was in September up until now. So about 2 months worth of work. Thank you.
I make a motion to table it.
Hang on a minute. A couple of people have their hands up. Councilor Stahl.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question for the chair. Do we have any idea about how much money approximately we owe Mr. Allen?
I don't, Councilor Sullivan. Councilor McGee, I think had some work commitment tonight, or he would have been with us. But we can find that out quick enough. And we can do so, I think, in not just a timely fashion, but with some dignity to Mr. Allen and the performance that he did.
Yeah, I know Councilor Bartley, has suggested that we send it to the mayor to see what he could do with it. But we've requested a half a dozen times for the mayor to come for various reasons. before various committees over the last several months with no response at all. We've requested money for stabilization for or bonding for demolition of buildings, for equipment for DPW, no response. So to think that we get any response from that office about taking care of our administrative assistant, the city council administrative assistant, I think is just going to continue to fall on deaf ears over there.
Benefit of the doubt, Mike, you're right.
My suggestion is I don't think that the council, given everything going on with the COVID crisis and everybody being asked not even to get together for the holidays, that we'll be getting together for the holidays ourselves. We have our own flower fund and we have funds available that we just go ahead and pay it out of the existing flower fund we have that all the city council members have contributed to, and take care of the problem ourselves.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I'm warm to Councilor Sullivan's idea, but I think as a practical matter, it's worth approaching our mayor to enter into a short-term consulting contract with Mr. Ryan, because not only did he help to get our new administrative assistant going, he continued the function of the council and the committees between the time that the new person was hired and was actually able to begin work. So there were a couple of things going on here that at least one of them falls under an essential need to the council. So I think it's worth asking the mayor to create this short-term contract for the period of time that is very brief and for the functions that were necessary for both the mayor and the council, because we're all doing work for the city. So I think it's worth trying to get the short-term contract, but I'm also warm to however we need to do it to make it right. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
I'm good now. Thank you.
Councilor Tomlin, you all set?
No, I think Councilor Vacon made some good points. I think we should try to send something to the mayor. During this whole COVID crisis, I think we've had about 3 positions that were created during COVID. And I think Ryan was definitely essential in transferring over the work that he's learned to Jeffrey Anderson Burgos and helping out the council in all its meetings and the mayor's office. So I agree with sending something over and seeing if there could be some kind of a contract written out for a consultant for the period of whether it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is, to try to take care of the pay for him. And also, if that doesn't work, I think I would be one councilor to go along with taking something out of the remainder or the account, the flower fund to pay, even though, you know, it's out of our, for flowers and for other events for workers, you know, deaths and other things for the city council. That I think Councilor Sullivan makes a good point that if it's not a great amount, that we could take it out of our flower fund, which we all contribute to. So thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would certainly agree with taking it out of the flower fund as well. One of the, as we're talking about whether or not the mayor can create a contract, maybe if it was a COVID related contract, it would seem to me to have a contract now for work that's already done, that would somewhat, I would think, also create liability or some kind of legal question. I mean, we're going to create a contract after the work is done to determine how a person's getting paid. You know, I think whatever we can do to justify Ryan getting paid what he should have gotten paid, and if it means we have to take it out of the flower fund, I also think he should be getting that money as soon as possible. And I really think, you know, I mean, I'm okay to send it to the mayor, but I think we ought to consider doing some of the other things we talked about in the interim. And then I'm sure if we did, and if we got a contract, I'm sure Ryan would be willing to put the money back into the flower fund. But it's also a way of saying thank you for what he did, because he didn't have to do that. And one of the things the flower fund does is condolences and other things, but I also thought we recognize people for their work and things that they've done for the city. And in this case, that would be exactly what we'd be doing with Ryan. except that it would be doing it in terms of financial resources for the time that he gave that he didn't have to give. So whatever we can do, but again, I would have doubt that we could have a contract put together now for something that was done in the last 2 months.
Councilor Barley?
Yeah, I appreciate all that. I think I was thinking outside the box, and I support all the prior speakers. But I think all I wanted to do was what I initiated. I just want to get something from Ryan. So I'm gonna. I mean, do we have to really? I don't think I have to make a motion to do that. So I'll just call him. I'll contact him myself. So I'll contact Ryan myself to have him work up something that accounts for his time and at his hourly rate when he was at the administrative assistant. All I wanted to do was just make a motion now to send a communication to the mayor's office. And Jeff, through the chair to Jeff, just, wrote another email. You can copy the finance committee and Councilor Murphy and Councilor Vacon who are here in this discussion. Just copy them saying, here's the situation. What can you recommend? We have the law department saying XYZ is a no-go. We probably, it's tough to make a ex post facto type contract. I'm not even sure if we can do that, but but who knows in COVID world? I don't know if that's true or not. It may be true to have expenses reimbursed or that we're warm to taking out of our own flower fund. But if we do that, would the city be able to reimburse the flower fund on a dollar for dollar match for the flower fund and advancing funds for the payment to Ryan Allen for services he performed on the for the city council? And then just to the chair, to my friend, the Ward 2 councilor, I'm going to tell you, without Ryan's help, it would have been condolences to the city council. Truthfully, if we didn't have his assistance, it would have been lights out for. I mean, all due respect to everybody, but he's the only one knows what's going on with the Zoom and with the jackets and all the rest of that. I mean, we didn't. Nobody else knew. I mean, I'm glad. I know Jeff's running up to speed now, but he certainly wasn't for the month of October and early November. So, we that's my motion that we send a communication that the administrative assistant sends a communication to the mayor, blah blah, whatever I just said, and that we ask that the mayor report back to us in time for the next finance committee meeting. That's my motion.
No, second that.
Motion made, seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Bacon, then Councilor Murphy.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that while we didn't come up with a path to pay him in the interim period before we hired the new person, I do believe in our public meeting, the full council made it very evident that that was our intention. We just simply were not able to affect it in a legal form in the open forum of our council meeting that night. So I'm not sure if that helps or changes anything, but I think that was generally recognized. Thank you.
You're correct. I agree. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, just and again, going back to COVID, and obviously, if we weren't in this crisis, we would have been meeting at city council chambers. We would have been having jackets right in front of us. We would have been we could have potentially gone along, not trying to say we don't need an administrative assistant, but we could have certainly carried forward pretty professionally. But because of the fact that we're all online and all the other factors, I mean, I think potentially the mayor can, based on what I understand of what he's got in terms of his authority with COVID funds, potentially be able to do that out of COVID money. So that's the only reason I would say we send it there, because he's the only one that can start that transaction. So.
I agree just about 100%, Councilor Murphy. I know this committee in City Hall chambers, with the experience we have right in front of you, would have made it. Now, public safety might have had a little more difficult time getting through it, but I'm sure we would have.
Well, that guy's old, he's having a hard time, but we'll deal with that. Peter, you defend
No,
me.
I think all of our committees, minus COVID, would have made it through it. However, there's the other part too, was his working and training with Jeff, which I think, is, I know some of it was above and beyond call of duty, but much appreciated. And I appreciate everybody's comments, and I think we're going in the right direction. Now, the order be in front of us.
Joe, I have my hand up.
Who's that?
Jimmy.
Jim?
Okay, can I talk first? I'll recognize you. Hang on. And I think the order in front of us is done with, because I respect Crystal's opinion that no matter what we do, we cannot make him a special employee.
Right.
So I think we need to just dispose of this order with the city council. It'll be a good lead-in next Tuesday as far as what's going on, so the full city council can hear us. Just a note, there's 12 out of 13 councilors in the flower fund. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. I too support, giving Ryan his due because he goes above and beyond always. And along with what Terry was saying, I think that this could probably be taking out of whatever monies the city is getting for that COVID subcommittee. I don't know a lot about that subcommittee, but I'm not sure exactly how much money is in it, where the money is going, and that sort of thing. But if it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't be in this situation. And I also don't mind taking out of the flower fund. However, one of the things that I think is, the money that Ryan gets paid, that affects his retirement. It affects his hours, it affects taxes. Is that something legally we can do? I don't know. I don't know those answers.
Good point. Good questions. Is there any further discussion? Any suggestions on this order?
I say it's been complied with, and Jeffrey sends an email to the mayor tomorrow.
Okay, so we'll make a motion that the order's been complied with the best we could. Send that back to the full city council. I'll let Councilor McGee know if he isn't. We'll probably pick up on the tape of this meeting, but let him know where we are. And we'll, Jeff, you heard the request, if you could just initiate the contact with the mayor, see where there might be some opportunities or possibilities there.
Yeah.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a point of order, but the order is that he is designated a special municipal employee. I don't think we can say that that's complied with.
That's fine.
That's a good point.
We can give it leave to withdraw.
Motion to leave to withdraw.
Second.
Motion made, second, give leave to withdraw. Okay. Councilor Barley?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, I'll vote for the motion. I guess it's, I guess what we're saying, however, Mr. Chair, is that we're going to send this up for December 1st with our fingers crossed that we'll get a communication from the mayor's office. I know Jeff will send that on a timely fashion. But we've got to be prepared to not get a communication. And then we've got to be prepared to get radio silence, because that's generally what we get from the mayor's office. Unless the chair and other councilors want to press the city council president, as I did on a couple of occasions. I know you all had my back in your heart of hearts, but I didn't hear it on your voices. So I guess I gotta, if we could just get a little louder, the chorus could sort of speak up a little bit. I mean, you heard what the president said. We file an order, but we really can't order them. Okay. All right. So now we're sending a letter, and well, we really can't expect to get a response. What? So the hope is that the city council president, with all due respect, will kind of press the point on behalf of our friend Ryan and our employee Ryan. I mean, that's what I hope will happen. I just have two quick points of order. I did email Ryan and I requested the hours, and for relative to the prior order for the police department, Mr. Chairman, I did email Tanya, and I asked and to my friend through the chair to Councilor Leahy, I did ask that Tanya kind of help effectuate some of those year-end grant reports, Joe. In other words, they'll kind of walk us, to kind of help the department heads walk to the munis, because, like Councilor Leahy said, we can't even access it. I wouldn't even know where to start. So I just want the chair and the committee to know that those emails, one, I sent the email to Sergeant Hart with the with the management letter. Second of all, I sent the email to Tanya relative to the year-end grants. And third, I sent the email to Ryan for his hours. Thank you.
Munis is like reading the charter. You can't read the charter without Mass General laws in your other hand. Munis you can't read unless you have Mass General Finance in both your hands. And you're right. You know, it's really impossible to get in and read. Councilor Leahy, is that hand still up?
No, sorry, Joe. It's down. Thanks.
No problem. I thank you. I thank you all. Some great comments, and hopefully we'll resolve this by next Tuesday. Is there any other question on the motion? The motion is to give leave to withdraw with all our explanations and hopefully some answers by next Tuesday. If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you for a great meeting, a short meeting, and everybody have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving. Motion
Take care.
adjourned.
Take care. See you
Motion
tomorrow
made,
night.
second to
Second.
adjourn.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All in favor?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
We
Happy
stand
Welcome aboard,
adjourned.
Jeff.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.